Okay, so let's start the lecture today. So we left with structures in the last lecture, right? So then we had this whole discussions about how the member variables inside a structure are packed, and how the structure and overall how the structure is packed in memory. So then some one of you pointed us to uh, a web page, and then we read from there. So did you guys read that link? Is that thing clear now for all of you? If it comes in the exam, will you be able to find out the size of a struct? It might be there. So I can explain that in like in 10, 15 minutes. So do you need clarification on that? Does someone need clarification on that still? It's there in the chat, Shavak. I have sent it to you already. You can check your mailbox. It will be there. Or you need clarifications, is it? Okay. 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 So there are just two rules in deciding in figuring out the size of a struct. Just two rules. Remember that. So let us write some programs and let's see what happens. So if you so speak up, guys. It will be better if you guys directly talk with me. Okay, so let's figure out what should be the size of this struct. So the size of an integer is 4 bytes, right? So let's start the struct at 0. Then it's 4, and then this is 5, right? So if we just do the manual calculation, it should come up to 5. But then what are the two rules? The two rules are every variable inside the program, every variable inside the structure should respect its own alignment. What do I mean by alignment? I've explained that already in the last class. If we have an integer variable, then it should be aligned. The address should be a multiple of 4. If it is a character variable, it should be a multiple of 1. If it is a double variable, it should be a multiple of 8. So if your address is not, I mean, and how do you figure out? You just give a starting address of 0 for the first variable, and then you work on, and then you start working with the other variables sequentially. So if you give this a address 0, then this would occupy the first 4 bytes. This would start at address 4, right? So this means this struct should have, ideally, this structure should have a size of 5, right? Because the first 4 bytes are taken by the integer, and the last 1 byte is taken by the character. But yeah, so are we expecting the alignments of the individual variables? Yes, we are, because integer starts with 0, which is a multiple of 4, and then character, it's just a multiple of 1, so any address would suffice for a character. So we are good. But let's figure out what is the structure. Yeah, so as per the member variables, the alignment restrictions are met. This is the first rule. The alignment condition of the individual member variables have to be matched. Let's see what is the output now. The first rule is met. I mean, the search for the first rule is satisfied. For condition is satisfied. Sorry. Yeah, but still it is not 5, right? It is 8. Why so? Even though the member variables are properly, the addresses of the member variables are aligned to their respective sizes, but still the size of the character is, the size of the struct is 8. Why so? This is where the second rule kicks in. In the second rule, the second rule says that the overall size of the struct should be a multiple of the biggest member variable size. What is the biggest member variable size here? The biggest member variable size is 4, is int. And what is the size of int? 4. So overall the size of the struct should be a multiple of 4. That means we are getting a size of 5, right? But then 5 is not good because it's not a multiple of 4. That's why what is the next multiple of 4? It's 8. So that's why it goes to 8. So these are the two rules. The first rule is the member variable should respect, the alignment of the member variable should be according to their sizes. And then the second thing is the size of the struct should be a multiple of the biggest member variable, the size of the biggest member variable within the struct. Is this clear for everyone? Just write it down somewhere.
But sir, for in previous class we had an output 6 also.
I don't think so.
Yes, sir, we had an output 6.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Think so, maybe sir.
Sir, that is for short. I think then the largest was.
Yeah, there was just
2 bytes. Just remember that short is int of 2 bytes.
Okay.
Factor of 2 now.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So these are the two rules. There's no like ambiguity now. Just try to meet conditions and then you find the size of the struct. That's all. And how do you figure out the size? You just put 0 for the first variable and then start your way and start working with the other variables sequentially, one after another. So that means you may have to pad between the variables also, because let's say now you have one more variable here, double, right? Let's say double W. So then so can double start at address 5? Can someone reply? Yes, no.
Sir.
Yeah, so double cannot start at 5. So at what address should double start at? 8. Yeah. So that means these bytes are wasted, right? 5, 6, 7. These are all wasted. So then from 8 to what? Then double will go all the way up to 15, right? Because double has 8 bytes. So this is your size now. So size of the size of the struct will be what? 0 to 15. And what is the size? It's 16. So is 16 a multiple of 8? Yes. So let's see now what is the size of the struct. It's 16. It's as simple as that. So here what is happening? These bytes 5, 6, and 7, they are padded in between the variables to meet their alignment restrictions. Here you don't need to add, you don't need to pad the structure, right? In the previous case, we were padding the structure with 3 more bytes at the end. Here you don't have to, because by calculating by laying out the member variables properly, the size comes out to be a multiple of the biggest data. Yeah, now you are free to explore, man. I mean, now you try to change the order, then work out your this one addresses, and then you figure out. If it does not meet the rule, then you have to pad. That's it. The order might make a difference. Just work it out now. Just change the order and see. So this is clear, right? Now you can find out the size of any struct. If now there is one more thing here. which I didn't speak about last time. So you can nest, you can create structures within structures. It's not like you can only have a flat structures. You could also do this. Remember this always. So this is a structure inside a structure. So what would be how should you work out your size? You should start working with this now, the innermost struct. So whatever size this comes out to be, if this is the biggest data type, I mean, if this is the biggest variable inside, because this thing is like a member variable now, right? So if this is the biggest variable within this struct X, then you have to, the size of this struct X should be a multiple of the size of this struct Y. Yeah, the order would not change it, maybe because of the data type that is involved, right? I mean, they are meeting their requirements. That's why it did not change.
So,
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
how will we work with nested structs? Like,
Oh.
if, for example, if I declare a struct of type capital X, then how will I call capital Y's variable in that?
What does your intuition tell you? How should it be?
Like, do we have to declare for both Y and X?
No. See, now when you have a struct X, let's say you have this struct, right? See, when you have created memory for strx, right? What happened is, first, what generally happens? The memory for the member variables are also created, right? I mean, that is what the size of the struct is, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
This is just like another member variable now inside the struct. It just happens to be a struct member variable. So similarly, a memory would also be created for this struct without you having to declare it explicitly. So if you want to go inside Y, what we have to do is you have to say strx dot. I think you have to say strx dot d, maybe, with nested struct, because you are going inside this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. First of all, if you want to go,
capital Y dot D.
Yes. See, first of all, when you are creating a member variable here, remember this. You have to name it. You have to name this member variable. You cannot leave this place empty. Previously, what did we do here? When we created a struct, we did not create a variable out of it, right? Did we create a variable?
No, sir.
Wait, it's very interesting. You have asked a very good question, actually. I also was not thinking about this. Okay, yeah. So now, just look at the member definitions here, member declarations. You have a data type and you have a variable of the data type. Remember this. This is how the member variables are declared, right, inside this struct. The data type along with the variable of the data type, right? You cannot just leave your member variable like this, right? Can you leave it? It's not going to work, right? You have to create a variable out of the member data. You have to create a variable out of the member data type, that is in char or double. But if you come to the struct, you have not created a variable yet, right? Because this space is empty. This is where you create a variable, right? Remember I told you how you create a single variable out of a struct.
Yes, sir.
This is just the name that you have given X. This is not a variable. It's just the name of your data type. To create a variable, you have to use main, right? Inside main, you have to say struct X and you have to name the variable. Now you have got a variable of this type, that is struct X type, right? And this variable contains these three member variables. Now, let's say now you have a struct inside this. Now you have a new struct Y. Right? So now we are creating a member variable inside a struct. And then you have one member variable, let's say ID, right? Now, can I leave this space blank here? This space? No, why? Because this is the data type, right? This struct Y is similar to int, right? I have created data type, but I also have to create a variable, right, corresponding to this. I cannot leave this space blank. Because if I leave this space blank, it would mean something like this. I have just said int and I have not given any member variable name.
Yes, sir.
Right? So you have to give it a member variable name. So let's say call it YY. Now, if you want to access ID, you have to say strx.yy.id. That's it.
Okay, sir.
strx.yy will get you inside this variable, and .id will get you, .id will get you this, which is inside this struct.
So, and one more thing, like if we had declared struct X and this curly braces, and after that we had given a name, let's say X1.
This
Yeah,
one, right?
in that place.
Then you have created a variable out of struct X.
So, would we be able to declare strx in main?
Yeah, obviously you can. It is just that it's just that you have created a variable right where you have declared. That's it.
So we can use a
Yeah, you
struct
can
many
use both.
times.
Exactly. You can use this anytime now. You have a struct. What have you done here is the place where you have declared, you have also used the variable here. But here you have used the variable later on. Both these things are permitted, and it's not mutually exclusive. You can have both in your program.
And can we have arrays of struct? Like if I make a struct.
That's what I explained to you right in the last class, last part. Remember the student array, student struct. That was an array of structs, right?
So, I thought that we were only allowed to make arrays inside the struct.
No, don't you remember the bubble sort example which I gave you? Bubble sort.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a student list, right? That we sorted based on the roll number or then the whatever, right? That was an array of struct, right? Struct is just a data type, remember. So whatever you can create data types out of, you can create arrays out of integer characters, right? So you can create an array out of struct. There's no issue there. You can do all these things. There's no, yeah. Wait, let me see the chat. Someone is saying something. See, this is giving me 16 but it contains elements occupying more data. Okay, 4, 4, 4, 12, 13. Oh, what he's saying is, so let's say, this is strange. So he's saying he has one more. Let me write it down. Int x, y, z, right? Okay. See, okay. Let's see. You guys can see the chat, right? All of you. Someone is asking a question, so I'm just writing.
Yes.
I'm just writing his program, and I want to figure out what is the answer. So let's see this. Good. Okay, so he has 3. So yeah. So what should be the size of this struct according to you guys? You see, this is x, y, z, 3 integers, right? 4, 4, 4, 12, 13. Okay. 13, and then double is what? 8, right? 13 plus 8 is what? 21, right? So it has to be at least bigger than 21. It cannot be 16. So what he's saying is he's getting 16 as output. Yeah, even I'm also getting 16 as output. Good. So let me figure out one more thing here. Now do you see where he went wrong? See, this is a very, very good example actually. So guys, pay attention here on the screen. See, what he, why am I referring to him as he? So yeah, Anurag. So what Anurag did in the beginning was, he did not create a variable out of this struct. Remember, he did not create a variable out of this struct. If you don't create a variable out of this struct, then what happens? Then there is no memory. Then there is no memory assigned for this struct inside this struct X. That's why this entire thing was ignored. This entire struct was ignored. It was similar to having just these 2 data types, that is Z and W. Now, if I create a variable out of this, that means you have a proper variable now, member variable inside this struct. then it gives you a size of 24. Then you start that, then you can work out your size. Then it will be proper. When you did not give it a name, it does not have any physical significance. Now this struct, there is no way in which you could access XYZ using using a variable of type struct X, because this does not have any name. I mean, there is no variable attached to this struct Y. So it's not a member variable yet. If it is not a member variable, it does not belong to the structure.
Sir, so it means that it does not exist.
It does not exist. Yeah, it just the compiler eliminates. You cannot access it, right? If I leave it like this without any name, how the hell can you?
So what does exactly YY do?
So YY gives you, what does Z do here? Tell me, what does Z do here?
It just gives a name.
Yeah. So similarly, now if you want to access this member variable called, which is the character member variable, you have to have a name, right? It's not a name; it's a variable, right? Only then you can get to that location, right? Within this
Yes,
struct.
sir. Got
So this also has to have a name, right? This struct Y also has to have a name. Don't call
sir.
call it a variable. It has to have a variable so that I can go inside that memory area and access its data. Yes, tell me.
Sir, yeah. For example, if I take a string of size 9, that is, and a double variable, what would happen in rule 2? Because the fact that the struct size has to be a multiple of the largest variable, right?
Tell me again, what do you want to do?
Wait a second, sir. Say, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Wait a second, sir. I'm sharing some code on the chat. I was saying, sir, how is rule 2 addressed in reference to arrays of character or an
Characters
integer?
right here. So let me just yeah. So if you have a, let me just do this here. So what do you have at the beginning? 9.
Yes, sir. Char A9.
And then what is this?
Int B.
And double C. So then work out to your addresses, right? What is this? 0.
Yeah, sir. I used the addresses. This was 0 to 12.
Why 12? It is
No, sir,
only
0 to 11. 0 to 11, not 0 to 12. Yeah.
No, it's a character. It's not a string. It's a character array. It will just contain 9 characters. That's it.
No, sir. I thought so too, but it's not containing it. The starting address of this array is 64 to 280, and then the address of the integer is 64 to 92. 12.
Yeah, because it starts at 9, right? That's why. Because the integer cannot start at 9, right?
Okay.
That's why it has to be padded to what? It has to be
Okay.
it has to be a multiple of what? Tell me.
4. Yeah, sir.
4. So it will start at 12, right?
Okay, sir. And then, according to rule 2, the size of the struct has to be a multiple of the largest variable, right?
Yes. So what is the largest variable here?
The array, sir, I think.
No, largest data type. What is the data type? Double.
Okay, data type. Yeah, sir, that was what I was asking. We'll have to consider the character, right? Not the array
Yes,
size.
not the size. Obviously, man. I mean, you can make it like 900 now. So
Yeah. Okay, sir.
will
Okay.
die doing this calculation, right?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So it has to be size of the biggest data type, not the size of the biggest. I mean, the size of the array, maybe not the size of the array.
Okay, sir.
Okay, shall we move forward then with this? This is done, right? This concept of you can calculate the size of any structs now, right? And I've also explained how do you access struct inside a struct. No, you cannot use a struct. Okay, I have removed that part actually. Yeah, let me put it back. So see, now there is an issue here. So if now someone is asking, can we use struct Y outside? Can I use struct Y in isolation? I think you cannot, because struct Y, the definition of struct Y is hidden by struct X, right? It is not visible. It is not visible to your entire program. The struct Y is hidden inside struct X.
Sir, so should we write x dot yy?
Sorry?
Should we write x dot yy to access that?
What are you doing here? Tell me, if you do struct x.yy, what are you doing here?
Accessing a variable named yy inside x.
You are not doing that, right? This is the data type, man. How many times will I repeat the same thing? This is a data type. It is something. It is similar like int. Can you do something like int dot something? It's not, right? You have to have a variable of this type first of all, right? You have to have a variable. You have to have a struct variable first. Let's call it struct variable. and then you can use this struct variable to access that. Is this clear? Then
Yes,
you can
sir.
do .yy. You cannot do struct x.y, man. How can you? Because this has no physical significance, right? This is just a data type. Physical significance is only of variables, right? So you can only use this variable because when you declare this struct var, then only your compiler has created an area called struct var in your memory. And then when you do that, then when you do variable.yy, that means you have went to that place inside this area, which is represented by yy. But then you cannot just leave it at yy. You have to access something inside yy, right? So you have to say x, y, or z. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, someone is saying but we can use struct y later. It is declared. Let me say I'm not exactly clear that can we do this or not, because I don't work with nested structures much. It's just a theory concept, not theory as in it's there as a concept. So yeah, so I am declaring a variable of type struct y now. So let us see if I'm able to declare. No, I cannot, right? Because struct y is not visible to me now. It is not visible. It is there. It makes sense only inside struct x. See, this is quite simple, guys. Let me explain it to you. Wait. Mind the figures here. So these are all my figures. Some figure. So this is the memory area for struct, right? So this is the memory area for struct. So this is the memory area for struct x. This thing. Now within this, what do you have? Within this, you have a smaller So within this, you have one more memory area. So let's say. So this is one more memory area. Yeah. So this is the memory area for y, right? Or rather, you could say this. So there is no way you could directly access y because y is hidden inside x, right? So this is it's something like whenever you declare a memory area called struct x, then also a memory area y is created, which is part of the memory area of x. That's why you cannot directly declare variables of this type because it is inside this. It has no physical. The compiler won't be able to understand it. And then you have other smaller boxes for characters and then doubles. But this is the memory. This is the area for y, and this whole thing is the area for x. Is this clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So yeah, so we are done with struct there. I mean, not done, as in we are done with this concept of size and nesting structures. Yeah, so this, we covered some very important questions actually. So can you access a nested struct independently? No. How can you access a struct, the nested variables of a struct? I mean, how can you access the variables of a nested struct? By going to its variable, right? And then doing an access operator. If I don't give the name of a member variable struct, then what happens? That struct is ignored. So we have covered these 2, 3, 4 important questions here in this concept. Okay, then let's move on. No questions, right, for anyone now? See, I repeatedly, I'm seeing this question coming up again and again. So always remember this. Whenever you do this, right? This is equivalent to just writing a data type. I'm repeating it again and again. this does not have any physical significance. This is an error directly. You cannot do anything with an integer. You have to create a variable out of it. So to create a variable, you have to say a variable, you have to create a variable name, right? You have to write a variable name. Similarly, for struct, you have to create a variable. Then only you can use the struct inside your program. Just by writing struct y does not make any sense. It is just a data type. I'm reiterating this again and again. Okay, so let's move on to something more interesting and more complicated. So there is one more. So we have covered one data structure which is called struct. Let's go to one more data structure now. So this is called union. Okay, so what do you understand by the word union? See, I don't know the syllabus of the exam, Shabaka. Sir has told me to take the class, so I'm taking the class. So I better ask sir. He just mail to him. Maybe he will reply to you with the topics for the exam. But my guess is like whatever has been taught till today, it will be on the exam. Because we have not created the question paper yet. So yeah. Okay, so what do you mean by union? If you have understood, you know union, right? What is union? Union is when you have multiple sets and you are taking a union with those sets, right? So it is if you have set A, set B, and set C. What is an union? You say A union, B union, C, right? Or union is also, I mean, you could also say it as a plus, right? A or B or C. The or, you mean to say or. So how does a union come into picture from this, from a programming perspective? Where do you need unions? So I will ask you a very basic question here. So let's say we have an integer called variable. Let's say you have an integer called variable. So is there any way you could change the data type of variable later in your program? So let's say you have a variable and you have stored 12, right? So is there any way in which you could make variable store 12.5? Is it possible? Okay, sorry.
Typecasting.
It will not work, man.
Okay.
If you put typecasting, what does typecasting say? Typecasting say convert the thing on the left to the type of the variable on the, convert the thing on the right to the type of the variable on the left. This is what typecasting means, right? Whatever is on the right, the typecasting converts it to the type of the variable on the left. But the type of the variable is int, right? So how can you make it store 12.5? You cannot. It's impossible. For that matter, can you make this variable store a string? Can you do this? Anurag, this auto var will only work once. You cannot, later down the program, you cannot again change the type of the variable. So let's not go to auto yet. So auto is not going to help you there. Auto is only going to infer your variable once. That is wherever you have declared it, right? 12.5. The compiler would say, okay, variable is of type float. It will stay like that. You cannot, later down in your program, you cannot change it to other types. Okay. So my question is clear, right? So this is what we want to do. What is no, sir? So is this thing clear that I'm trying to ask you guys? What we want to do? We have one type of variable called int, and we want to store different type of data into the same variable. Different types of data. We try to store a number here. We are trying to store a float here. Now in this line we are trying to store Now we are trying to store a what? We are trying to store a character pointer. I mean, we are trying to store a string here or a character pointer. So this is not possible, right, with variables. Can you, we have just discussed struct, right? Is this possible with struct? Quickly, guys, just respond. Is it possible with struct?
No, sir.
No, sir.
But it is possible in some weird way, right? If you have 3 member variables, let's say you have a num, then you have a float. Sorry. Yeah, then you have a float, right? And then you have one more member variable called a character pointer, let's say name. Then it is possible, right? Then what happens is, then what you do is you say struct, then you say struct x, then you create a variable out of it. And then what can you do? Tell me. Now you have one variable, right, of type struct, and then you could store three different types of data in the same variable. For the integer, you could say dot num equals to x equals to 12, right? So let's call it, what shall we call it? F. Yeah. Then struct dot f, strx dot f, you can say 12.5, and then dot name, you can do this. So haven't I done the same thing here? I mean, conceptually, I have done the same thing, right? I have one variable, and I have in that same variable, I am storing 3 different types of data. Or have I cheated? Is this correct or is this wrong? This is wrong. Why?
Yes.
Because I have, yeah, it's kind of cheating. Why? Because I have not used the same memory location, right? Now, this is the key here. This is where I will bring into unions now. I have not used the same memory location to store 3 different types of data. Remember, this is just like saying I have 3 different variables of type int, float, and char, and I'm storing 3 different values in the 3 different variables. So what is the big deal, man? This is what we do all the time. The only thing that I've done is wrapped those variables inside a structure. That's all. But fundamentally, I have not done anything great here. 3 different memory areas, 3 different data. It's just that it happens to be inside a struct. That's all. But I'm wasting memory, right? Clearly, I'm wasting memory because I know that this variable can only hold one type of data always, one type of data. I mean, it will either be 12, or 12.5 or my name, right? But I have declared 3 different locations to store these 3 types of data. This is clear, guys, right? You can type on the chat.
Yes.
Why
Sir.
is it cheating? And why it's a wastage of memory? Yeah, you can respond on the chat.
Understood, sir.
Because understanding this is important towards understanding union. That's why I'm asking you. And union is tricky, guys. It's not simple. Some very trick questions can come from unions. Okay, let me do one thing now, right? So this is what the thing is. I mean, I have 3 different areas, 3 different values. This is clearly wastage of time. And I'm not happy with this. I want one memory area to store 3 different types of values at 3 different lines in the program. So who will help me do that? This is where a union comes into picture. Union. Remember this, guys. It's very, very important. When I declare this thing as a union, now what happens? Now I have to go back to my drawing here. So just excuse me for the lag because I have to draw it properly. Okay, so what have I declared here? I have declared, let's say I have declared 2 member variables now, int and float, right? And I have declared it as a union instead of a struct. Right, so now let's see how the memory will look like. The memory layout for X will look like. How many bytes do you does a float require? I'm just checking if you guys are sleeping or not, man. Someone can reply. 4, yeah, correct. Good. Good. So now let us draw that. So then you have a struct X, then you have 4 bytes. So I will just draw 4 bytes here. So these are the 4 bytes allocated to let's say now an union, right? These are the 4 bytes allocated to what variable? What is the name of the variable? F. So these are the 4 bytes allocated to F. I mean, board would have been such a luxury now. It's like very difficult to just draw it. Yeah. So now this is the memory area for F, right? And this is also the memory area for X. Now, now tell me, where should I place num? That is another 4 bytes for num. Where should I place this? Now, you guys might be thinking that I would need 4 more bytes, right, to store num. This is what you guys are thinking, right? Everyone. This is what happens with a struct. With a struct, different memory areas are created for different member variables. If this would have been a struct X, then there would be 4 bytes for F and then another 4 bytes for the other variable, which is whatever that name, num. Right? So this is what the layout of a struct looks like. But union is more fancier than that. Union, what happens in union is you don't create these 4 more bytes for num, for the variable num. This variable would be sharing this memory location with F. So it's something like this. This same memory location will also be, not memory location, the same memory area will also be shared by num. In struct, what would happen is you would have created one more, let me say num. In struct, what would have happened actually is you would have one more memory area here for num. But in union, you have the same memory area which is shared by all the member variables. And what is the size of the memory area? Tell me, just think, guys, what should be the size of the memory area so that all the member variables can share it? Largest of them, exactly. Largest. Right? It's like one house where everyone lives. So it's like it should be the biggest, right? The house should be equal to the size of the biggest member who is living there. But in struct, it's fine because all the housemates are sharing different rooms. Yeah, let's call it rooms. So it's fine with struct. But in unions, all the housemates, that are the member variables, are sharing the same room. The size of the room should be equal to the size of the biggest member variable, right? So now what happens? What is the fancy thing that is happening here? Unions can store only one value at a time. Remember that. Only one value. Now, in these 4 bytes, the union will either store an integer or it will store a float value. That means 4 bytes is enough because union always stores the value of just only one type of value always. That is, it will either store a 12 or it will store a 12.5. It cannot store 12 and 12.5 because there is no area for that. So if you don't trust me, let me show this to you guys. It will be very clear now. It will be very, very clear. So the syntax is exactly same. Can you access long? No, you cannot, right? Because the size is long integers is 8 bytes, right? I'll come to that when you wait. So let's, see the syntax of union is exactly the same. So let me create a variable out of this now. So how do you create a variable out of this? You just say union x and give it a name. Let's say strx, right? Okay, so how, so let me just prove it to you guys that you can only store one value at a time. So how can you initialize struct? Tell me at the declarations only using curly braces, right? You guys still remember this, don't you? These curly braces that we used to initialize structs. You guys remember this, right? Okay,
Yes,
good.
sir.
So what we did with struct, what we tried to put, we just tried to initialize the member variables by just writing their data here, right? Like this, right? So let me first declare it as struct, and then I will show you that there is no issue, because each of these will get a different room now. See, there is no issue, right? There is no error. I mean, this thing is good. This thing is complete. 12 will go to num, and that room for num. 12.5 will go to the room for f, float. Now, if I declare it as a union, let's see what happens now. I get an error. What does the error say? The error says too many initializers for x. That is, there is no place for 12 and 12.5 together. You can either store a 12 or a 12.5. So let's say if we do 12, then what happens? See, there is no error. So that means you are either storing a number or you are storing a float in the same memory area. If I store it as a float, then it's a float. See, again, no issues, no error. Now the question is, how do I access these values? The accessing is quite simple. To access it, you just have to say strx dot, you know it's a float variable, right? So you say f. So you get the float value. See, you get, sorry, what happened here? Why did I get a 0, 0 everywhere? Okay, let me do one thing. Not here, let me do this. strx dot num. Let me put it at 12 and see what happens here. Yeah, now you get a 12. And if you say strx dot f, now let's say 12.5. Sorry. F, and then I have to say dot f. Yeah, you get a 12.5. See, what is happening here is now you guys see this looks confusing, and it actually is. So when you are saying strx.f, right, you are accessing the same room, and then now this room has a name f for you, and you are storing this value 12.5 here, right? You are storing this value 12.5 here. When you say strx.num, you are again going to the same room, but you are storing 12 here. But then this room cannot have a single name. Remember that. Some of you might be thinking, then why don't we have a single name here, right? Let's just have some type, and then let's just have a single name here. Why don't I just name it as num, and then I can store both 12 and 12.5 there. But then this is not how unions work. You have to have two different names, but then it's the two different names of the same room. The room is the same, but it just happens to have two different names, right? Similar to the room is the same, but two different people are living in it, right? Both the people have different names. So it's similar to that. To put variables of that type, you have to use the variable of that name. Is this clear, guys? Concept of unions, is it clear? Unions are a way to save memory, and in unions you can only store one, because it will be only it can only hold
Sir.
one type of data.
Sir, if they both are representing the same memory area,
Yes.
like can we, I mean, like initialize with different name but access with both names? Like you initializes with this name called str.f, but
Exactly.
you can print with str.num. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So what will happen? Let's say, yeah. So what will happen is if you are accessing it strs.num, what will happen is, no, you will not get error, but you get a very big number. Why? Because this is the number. How it will look if then it will interpret all the bytes, right? All the bytes in this as a number, big integer number. That's why you get such a big number. Okay, let's do it. Let's do a very good exercise actually. So let us do a character and an integer. Short int. Let's call it short int.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Wait. Let me just do this first. Character ch, right? So what is the size of the union? Tell me now.
2 bytes.
2 bytes, right? Because the another byte is for character, right? So let me do this, right? So strx dot n, right? What is the ASCII of small a? 97, right? See, I am storing 97 in this int, right? But during the accessing, I will be accessing it as a character. That means it's simple. So that means I have 2 bytes here. So I have 2 bytes now, right? So I have stored 97 here, right, as an integer in these 2 bytes. But then when I'm accessing it, like storing, I stored it as a number. But then when I'm accessing this, I am accessing it as a character, right? I stored a number, but then I called using one name, that is the integer name n. But then I'm accessing with the character name ch. So what should I get? Tell me, guys. I don't know if I'm correct. Let's see. See, you get small a. See, I did not do any type conversion here, right? All that I have to do was I stored it as a number, but I read it as a character, and automatically I got the character equivalent of the number. If you can do the reverse also. Let's.
What if you were to store a number more than the limit of char?
Sorry?
What if you were to store a number bigger than the limit of char?
Then you will get an unidentified character, man.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yes. Now let me store it as a
Doesn't
character.
it result in a segmentation fault?
Sorry?
Doesn't it result in a segmentation fault?
Why?
Because we are accessing restricted memory areas with that.
Oh no, wait, sir. Wait a second, sir. Will the character only interpret 1 byte of the 2 bytes of the shorted, or both the bytes?
1 byte, man. Character is 1 byte long, right?
1 byte, the ending byte or the starting byte?
Starting byte.
Starting byte. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Then, sir, we can't exactly, we won't have an undefined error, because, I mean, it's only accessing 1 byte, so that value of that 1 byte won't ever be more than the character, right?
You will get a weird character sometimes.
Okay, yeah, unexpected one, but it will be readable, right?
Yeah. So I am doing the reverse now. I am storing a character here, and then I am reading it as an integer. Let us see, what do I get? Oh, what did I get? Okay, I'm getting something.
So it's reading both the bytes, right? So one of the byte will contain some random values.
Yes, exactly. You are correct. That's it. That is what is happening, I think. One of the bytes will contain a random value. So let me do one thing here then. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so if I read, how can I read just the first byte?
Using %c.
No, the %c will also read it as. Let me do this way. This is for my satisfaction. You guys don't have to do this. So short int is of how many bytes? 2 bytes, right? So you get 97. That's fine. That's yeah, you are correct actually. In the integer, what was happening was when I stored a character, so this thing stored 97, fine. But then this had some garbage here. This had some garbage because of what the whole integer was screwed up. So what I did was I put zeros here and I just masked this with. I mean, I did a masking basically. Don't worry about this what I did here, but just yeah, whatever you told is correct. The higher order byte contains some garbage because of which I was getting a garbage integer. See, unions are a very fancy way of doing data conversions, right? Now you can appreciate my unions. You can convert from one data type to another data type. Just not, I mean, as in you can read, you can store it in one format and read it in another format.
So I understood unions, but my question is like, how is it useful? Can you give a practical, maybe some?
It's very useful. See, first of all, yeah, for your, I mean, in this course, maybe you will not write those kind of programs, but then when you write efficient programs, right, efficient C programs, let's say you want to write a program for compressing a big file, right, a big file. So what happens is you know that and you want to store some data. Let's say you want to let's say student data, student list, right? Now you know in the student data, some data would not be it's something like this. If the student have this kind of information, you don't need the other informations. Do you see where I'm going with this? For example, the practical use of unions is this. So let's say you have a student now. You have a union called student, right? And then you have this now. You have yours, let's call it long, and then let's call it its PAN number. See, if you have the PAN number of a student, you don't have to store any other information for the student. But if I know your PAN number, right, I can find out all the information of you. If I don't have your PAN number, I have to store your name first of all, or let's say I have to store your roll number. Not to complicate it, I have to store your roll number, right? And then so it's something like you either store your PAN number or a roll number.
It's 11 o'clock.
So then in this case, if you would have used a struct, right? If you would have used a struct, you would have allocated memory for both PAN number and roll number, right? But then you know in your program, if I have the PAN number, I don't need the roll number. Or if I have the roll number, I don't need the PAN. So this way, you have saved actually half your memory, because if you have, let's say, 1 million students, right? And if you would have declared your data structure as a struct, then you would have had some, let's say, x bytes of memory. But if you have declared as a union, your memory just goes by half. It goes to x by 2. Because semantically, you know, you will be only storing one type of data corresponding to a student.
So, but how will we know that we have the PAN number? For example, if I access if student.pan number is greater than 0 or not equal to 0, I will always get a true statement, because even if I have a roll number, it will be some value, right?
See, this is, you cannot check whether the union has initialized the PAN number or not. This is not the case. You have to use it before putting it into student. So it will be something like this. If for this student you have the PAN info, so this will come from somewhere else. It will not come from inside your union. Let's say from some external source, you know, for this student. So let's say for whatever, I mean, the last name that I'm seeing. So it will be something like this. If he has a PAN number, then you do this. Then you put student.PAN number, then you write the value here. Else, you don't write the number. You write the roll number here. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. This logic, right, of whether to store a PAN number or a roll number in this memory location, this will come from outside. You cannot use the struct. You cannot use the union to say, if you cannot do something like this. If let's say the union's name is X, if union n.PAN number is valid or not. You cannot do this. You cannot do this check, because this thing about storage only happens when you are putting things inside the union, right? Once the things are there inside the union, then you cannot just say PAN number is greater than 0, less than 0, because obviously you are just reading memory, right? It will have some data. So there is no way for you to verify whether that's a valid PAN number. Yeah, you can verify if it's a valid PAN number, because PAN numbers would have a syntax, right? That's true. But then you use this from an external source saying this student has a PAN info. So then store the PAN number corresponding to that student union, that is S. Else store the roll number info in that same union. So in the same memory location, you are storing either this kind of data or that kind of data. That's why you have saved memory. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Nested union is possible, yeah. Just like nested, nested union is possible.
Sir, what is this format in double quotes? Parahatam.
There is no format, man. I am just explaining the concept. There is no format. I cannot use a blackboard now. That's the sad reality. So I have to write all these things in the code itself. This does not make any sense. I've just told you that if I get the information, if this student has a PAN number or not from outside, from somewhere outside, then I put the PAN info in the union. Else I put the roll info in the union. That's all. So this is some other logic. I mean, it does not make sense. Is this clear, guys? Unions. Nested union is possible. Completely possible. Okay. So yeah, so I'm closing the topic on unions then. You don't need to know more than this.
Sir, and how will we use pointers for unions, because it will be the same location?
Yeah, you will get the same address, but then you can access with the name, right? The name. Nothing is going to change, right? When you have a union. See, I cannot use OneNote because I don't have a pen actually. For OneNote, you need a pen. What is that called? I mean, the digital pen, right? Using which you can write over the screen. I don't have that. So yeah, stylus. So that's why I have to use that software to do that, to draw the drawing. OneNote without a pen sucks. Okay, so let's say I have a union of student and then I declare a pointer, right? So then first you have to create a variable out of it, right? So then later on, let's say you create a pointer. Right? So now what is happening? Z is pointing to the same memory location, right? As in both these values will have the same. You can verify this in your code right away. Let me do this for you. That's a very good way to verify actually. So what will be the memory location of this? Z dot. Yeah, let's not do that. Let's not use a pointer directly. You can use simple pan num, right? Let's put a pointer. Let's find the address of this. And now let's find an address of roll number. Do you guys understand what I'm writing in the code? All of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
There should not be any doubts here at this point. Yeah. So see, I'm trying to find the addresses of both these variables. And if you are correct with unions, this address should come out to be the same. See, it's exactly the same, right? Do you get it now? Whatever we have discussed till now, we have verified it also. See, they are occupying the same address, that is the same memory location. It just happens to have two different names. If you want to store it in the long format, use the pen num name. If you want to store an integer there, use a roll num name. That's it. Two different names for the same memory location.
So like if we use pointers now, won't it be confusing or something?
Confusing to whom? Confusing to you, right? The compiler would not get confused.
So, how will we access?
Same, simple, just like we did with structs, right? You understand this now?
I mean, like if I want to use in some other line star z is equal to something, star z is equal to 100, let's say. So how will we know that?
What does this mean? Star z equals to 100. Okay, you want to modify the data, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so then if you want to modify it, then first you cannot modify the whole union as such, right? Then first you have to get hold of hold of the name first. Without the name, you cannot go to the location, right? It's something like you go to the room and then you don't say which person you want to meet inside the room. Then is it possible to give him a data, to give him an object? If you go inside the room of the union and there are two persons sitting there, you have to call out a person, right? Then only you can put something there. So that's why you have to first say where you want to put. You have to first name the member variable. You have to say something like this, and then you can change the value. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So don't think you can do the similar thing like the way you used to do it integers, right? For example, you cannot just put a 12.5 here directly by just using a pointer. No, I mean by just using the star operator. You have to have the name corresponding to it, then only. So you can do something like this. See, yeah. Let me make it very clear to you. You have s.pan number. So then you get an address of this, right? And then on this address, you can use a pointer and then you can make the change here. So you can put a value here.
Okay.
Does it make sense now?
Yes, sir. Sir, and one more thing, is there a way like I can just store a value in S and it will automatically detect which kind of variable is it and store it accordingly?
No, that's not possible. That's what I am telling you, right? You cannot just go to the room and put data without calling out the person. You have to call out the person. You have to say that the name of that. If you have to either say a PAN number or you have to say a roll number.
No, like here we have only a int and a long. For example, if I had a character, a int and a float, so and if I entered 12.5, so would it be able to just directly store it into float? No.
How would you do that? Tell me.
No, is there a way for that?
There is no way, right? You can only do it here actually in the initialization. That's it. Only here you can do that, whatever you are asking. You can just say 12.5 and then automatically, yeah, that is the problem here. See, you can do this, but then there's a problem here because you have not assigned this 12.5 to any of this. You have not given it a name. It's something like you go inside the room, 3 persons are sitting, right? One person is pen num, another person is roll number, another person is CH. You just go there and you just leave the place with the thing lying on the floor. This 12.5 is lying on the floor. The 3 persons are sitting, right? But then you didn't say for which that particular gift was. For whom that particular gift was. Now let us try and see for you are thinking that this should automatically go to the float value, right? So let us see if this happens. That's what your guess is, right? Whoever I'm speaking to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let's see. वो होता है कि नहीं. We should get the correct value of 12.5, by the way. Okay, we are getting good. That's a good thing. But then let us do one more thing here. Wait, let us do one more thing. I think I know what's happening here. We are going to all this. See, now there is an issue. See, by default, now there is a case here. By default, what happens is when you leave the room, right, with the thing lying on the floor, the first person picks it up always, which is on these 3 persons, right? PAN number, roll number, and CH. By default, this value goes to the first person. So it happens to be float. That's why we got a matching here, right? But then if it was an integer, what happens was I get a 0, 0. It did not go to that second one because it got assigned to this int.
So shouldn't we get 12.000?
Sorry?
Shouldn't we get 12.000 because 12.5 will be converted to 12?
No, it will not, because I am trying to store a float value, right? In this, it will not truncate automatically. There is an error here. That even the truncation won't happen. So don't think that the truncation will also happen.
Print roll number that.
Okay, let's see. Let's see. Good. In this case, what is
Sir, so like roll number is showing a different value. So would it be stored at different address? Like you can.
I think
someone
both
was asking if 12, yeah, 12 gets truncated. This guy, 12 gets truncated. But then what he was asking is my compiler intelligent enough to put this 12.5 to map this 12.5 to the float value? No. If you leave it like this, it will just map it to the first person there in the
Are
group.
there any methods to do that
Sir, if you
automatically?
if automatically it does.
Number once.
Sorry.
S dot pan number.
Okay.
Percentage F S dot pan number.
Okay, you want to do S dot pan number. We saw this, right? Okay, you want to print it as an integer or a float? It's a float, right? You have to print it as a float.
Yes, sir. Percentage F.
It's a pan.num.
I get it. You will get 0, 0, 0. There is no proper mapping happening there. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. This thing will automatically go to the first member variable. I mean, it will be on the same memory location, but then it will be interpreted based on whatever your first member variable is. If float would have been in the first place, then it would have been a correct interpretation. Otherwise, it's wrong.
Sir, like pan.num is showing a different value. So would it mean that it is I mean pointing to a different location? Like
no, it's not pointing to a different location, man. It cannot point to, because all these three, right, they share the same room. Just remember this. They share the same room of size what? Of size 4, right? So then what is happening for the pan number cases, I have 4 rooms here. So I have 4 rooms here, and I have stored the value what? I have stored the value as 12.5. I mean, yeah, so this entire thing is spread across. I mean, this 12.5 is stored in this entire 4 values, right? But then what is happening is, since this value, the integer value is at the beginning, this 12.5 gets mapped to the integer, right? It gets mapped as an integer, not as a float. So what happens is, when you try to read it as a float, it will give you 0, 0, 0. Because who was the first person to pick it up? Tell me, when you left it there. See, by this syntax, you have left that place, you have left the gift on the floor without naming who gets it. But then the order of the member variable decides who gets it. So who got it in this case? The roll number got it, right? So that means your data has got interpreted as 12, not 12.5. So when you interpret it as a float, the float will still interpret it as an integer, and then you will have an error. And not error as in you'll just see 0. Because when you try to, I mean, it's like when you try to convert an int to a float, you get a 0, right? I mean, it's like that conversion is not happening properly, because it did not get mapped to the pan number.
sir,